Welcome, aquatic mammals, to this tutorial on how to play as the Akdarians in Distant Worlds 2. My name is DasTactic. Welcome to the channel, and I hope you've been enjoying this tutorial series so far. Yeah, it's been fun to make so far, so I'm looking forward to continuing on with it, of course. There's still a lot to cover. There's a lot of concepts in the game that I do want to sort of get and sort of expose, and the Ackdarians is actually my favourite faction, so this is actually the faction that I enjoy playing the most, so I will actually try to impart as much knowledge and information as I possibly can about this particular faction. Right, so anyway, just to go through, Akdarians are highly industrious semi-aquatic marine mammals. They have large webbed hands and feet, making them excellent swimmers. However, their hands are also quite dexterous, and they're equally happy living out of water. Akdarians are intelligent, peaceful and friendly. They have a rich culture that focuses on the hybrid nature of their living environment, encompassing both water and land. They excel in building highly maintainable starships. Their technology includes the advanced turbo thruster engine. This engine component is extremely fuel efficient, allowing Ackdarian starships to use less fuel and travel further. Anyway, it continues on then with the backstories. You can sort of pause and read those if you're wanting to. Let's go down through their personality. So we do this. Well, I've already done the humans, but I wanted to do this so that you can actually at least get a feel in isolation from what we've covered elsewhere. These are not aggressive at all. These are tending towards passive, and so that essentially means that they're going to not be wanting to stay in wars for very long. So if they're going to be in a war, they're going to be wanting to get out of the war fairly quickly, generally with that one. So it goes from between aggression and passivity, but passive doesn't mean it's a pushover. But they are, they're more likely to not get enraged when something bad happens to them. Caution, and I guess this is also helpful if you're playing against them, because you can sort of then think, okay, well, what can I get away with? What are they likely to do? Anyway, they're tending on the verge towards passivity. Caution, they're very, very cautious. So they're not going to take risk. So they're not risk takers. They carefully plan and consider everything before they do it. They're slightly more dependable than the humans, but of course a lot more dependable. A lot less dependable than the Ikaru, who have got a dependability of 50. So they will tend to honour agreements more than the humans will, only slightly, and definitely a lot more than the Boscara and some of the other insectoids. The reproduction rate here is average at 6. Their migration tendency is neutral at 0, so they don't mind whether they're not adventurers. They're not going to sort of wander out into the galaxy, and their assimilation rate is just average for the game as well at 0. So they're not they're not super fast at assimilating, but they're not super slow either. They prefer living in deep ocean planets or ocean planets. So deep ocean is by far their preferred way of actually sort of colonizing. They loathe, so it's even worse for them to then settle on desert savanna, rocky desert or sandy desert planets. So this is actually goes even further away from the I guess the galactic average for people, and so they really dislike being on those. Maybe they just dry out too much in the sun. All right, the benefits that this particular faction has is all research is +5. Construction research essentially is a +15, so they get a big boost with construction research. Ship maintenance is high, ship construction speed is up, and ship energy savings is also up a little bit there as well. So these essentially means that the ship energy savings essentially means it won't use as much fuel when it's just hovering around doing nothing. That doesn't have a big bearing in the game, to be honest, that last one. But you get a bit of a feel for the actual for the group itself. Again, if you're using this as a if you're playing pre-warp, you're going to get the starting research for the Akdarians is early beam weapons, early torpedo weapons, ground combat, and starship maneuvering. The Ackdarian tech, the specific tech that they've got, is the large starfighter bay and the turbo thruster engine. Now, there's actually a little bit more in here that the game isn't telling you. There are actually a few other techs that are available to the Ackdarians. They've got different types of starships, starfighters as well, not starships, but actual small craft. They excel at small craft, and that's actually the secret to using the Ackdarians, is to make the most of their of their fighters and bombers. So now the race victory conditions, these are very, very intelligent, the Akdarians, and so they they like technology, and so they want to have the most research treaties in the galaxy. So they want to be friendly and establish research treaties. That's actually one of their victory conditions. Control the largest ocean colony in the galaxy. So they want to have whichever the largest one is, they want to be the person that actually has it as a colony. Perform the most research in the galaxy is another one of their victory conditions. So they need to be, again, very research driven, and own the largest capital ship in the galaxy. So along with that, along with all of their sort of buildings and construction research and so on and so forth, they want big ships. And the ships that they will probably tend to want will be big carriers, more so than big battleships, because the carriers can then bring more of their excellent starfighters into the actual fight itself. Now, the preferred governments for these are Technocracy and Republic. So we'll go through those when we have a look at it in game. Again, it can sort of choose from any of the standard ones, plus the Technocracy is not entirely unique to them, but it's a rare one that only really they have access to. I think there's one other faction that does as well. I think the Xenox do. Let's have a quick look and see if they do. Yeah, they can as well. So they're the two that actually have access to the Technocracy, which means that they like research. Their troops are fairly weak, so the attack is only 90 and the defense is 135. And if we compare that to the humans are our vanilla level, I guess. Let's have a look at the humans and just use them as a comparison. So attack of 120 and defense of 180. The Ackdarians were 90, so a fair way under. So the Ackdarians are much weaker physically than the humans. Their most liked races are the Securans, followed by the humans, followed by the Teekans. So these are their sort of like their core group of friends. There will be other factions as well that will sort of go off, away from that as well. There'll be not everyone then becomes an enemy after that, but these are their most liked races, and the most disliked races are the Dayut, the Boscara, and the Shandar. Now, see how these are only negative 50. They actually are fairly accepting of all factions, to be honest. Of course, they won't put up with being pushed around too much, but they are very, very accepting at just negative 50. Compare that to the Boscara, who hate the Akdarians at negative 100. So this is not reciprocated back the other way. These are more willing to listen to what the Boscara are wanting to say than the Boscara coming back the other way. The Boscara hate the Akdarians. The Akdarians have got a bit of a dislike for them. All right, let's go into game, and then we'll have a look at the government. So we have a deep ocean world here. This is Lokizik 4. We'll just go across again into the governments, into the Empire screen, then into the government. And we'll just do a comparison between republics, which is the other one that they could sort of was suggested that they look at, and technocracy. When you're a technocracy, technocratic governments place engineers, scientists, and technical experts in control. Decision makers are selected based upon how knowledgeable and capable they are. Technocracies are typically highly efficient and free from corruption. However, they often enforce tight control over their citizen behaviour. This loss of personal freedom can sometimes lead to unrest. So technocracy governments types are only available to the Ackdarian and Xenox races. At this point, I don't know if the Akdarians eventually, when they come, should be part of that list as well, I think. So there will be a few of them that will end up having technocracy when the game is sort of fully fleshed out. So population growth goes down because of the controls, whereas the Republic actually it goes up a little bit. Counter-espionage, because it's a closed society, very strictly controlled with the technocrats. The counter-espionage is very hard for spies to break into a Ackdarian empire, whereas if it's a Republic, it's a bit more open. We've got all research goes up by 15%, and if it's a Republic, it's just by +5. Now, remember, we also have the native Ackdarian all research of +5 that gets added onto it as well. So we end up with like a +20, which is pretty enormous in terms of what you can actually then go and do. Colony happiness goes down by 10. This is a problem. This is actually something that will impact your income. So just be aware of that one. Whereas the Republic is a difference of 20, which is fairly dramatic, I've got to say. That's a fairly dramatic change. That alone is probably a reason to really consider whether you want to be a republic or a technocracy when you start the game. It may be that it's easier to get started as a republic and build up a little bit and then switch to a technocracy at some point in your game. The colony corruption reduction, they reduce the corruption. This also impacts your income a little bit, so this is positive for the income. The mining rates, they're slower at mining compared to the Republic. And then their war weariness, they don't mind being in wars. They don't, like, diplomacy is not as good as Republic. Their recruitment rate is fine. Their troop recovery rate is fine. So these are sort of like, you can imagine, I guess the large aquatic race, this is how I sort of imagine them, is the large aquatic race that from Star Wars, the ones that sort of had built the clone troops, that sort of thing, where they're very built along technological lines. And this is what these are with their technocracy. Now, this is going to be interesting because the typical leader term is 80 years, and it's by direct appointment. Now, when there is a change of leadership, it's basically they sack the old person and put a new person in, and it is disruptive for a short period of time. So several months of reduced colony happiness and increased war weariness, possibility of colony rebellions and even other leader changes. Whereas every 8 years, there's actually an election that takes place in a republic, and there's actually a mild boost. So several months of increased colony happiness and reduced war weariness. And so they can be any character, whereas the technocracy has to come from the scientist pool. So it's going to be one of your scientists will then step up into that role of being the supreme leader of the empire. Now, this will be also, we saw this with the humans. These ones do start off with a planetary governance building. So again, if you're playing pre-warp, you may want to choose Republic before Technocracy, because this is really, really cool to actually get this initially. It does mean that you're going to get a lot more income and you'll be able to sort of build faster as a Republic. But if you're playing sort of later on in the game, like if you start at Tech Level 1 or whatever, you may want to stick with the Technocracy. The Technocracy does actually start, if you did start at pre-warp, they get the exploration scanners, and they also get planetary exploration as well. These just mean that your survey ships are better right from the very, very start of the game in a pre-warp game. It means you're going to be able to explore fast, and very fast, by the way, not just a little bit faster than anybody else. This will really accelerate your surveying speed in the galaxy. And so that's not bad, to be honest, because in pre-warp that does give you a big advantage, because you're going to be able to find things faster. So if you are doing pre-warp, pump out the survey ships if you've got those two techs. I'll explain what the difference is between not having that and having that. Initially, when you start in pre-warp, and eventually everyone gets this when they it doesn't take them long before everyone's caught up to you with this one here. But what it does do is the initial ships that are survey ships send away teams down to the planets, and it takes a lot of time to send an away team. Every single asteroid has to have an away team sent down to it. So it takes an enormous amount of time. Whereas when we've got the exploration scanners, these come in and do a big radar blip around the actual ship itself and scan it just a little bit, but enough to usually find most of what is to be discoverable there. And it's only if there's actually stuff left over that they will send the away teams down. And even this next one, this planetary exploration, this means the away teams are actually faster at actually going down and actually finding things. So having that radar, that initial little radar, is a massive time saver. And so that actually works very, very well if you get the technocracy. But from my way of thinking, I'd probably still want to get the planetary governance because of the extra savings that you then get. It means you're going to be on top of your economy faster. Okay, so that's where we end up with those. And we can see there, if you look at all of the all research, as I say, went up by plus 20 with what we have, with this being plus 15 plus the plus 5. In fact, if we hover over that one, I won't go through all of these, but this is plus 5 from being an Ackdarian and plus 15 from the technocracy government. Anyway, you can sort of, if you're ever interested, just have a look down at the bottom of this screen. It's a very, very good screen, this one, just to get a feel for what the benefits are that you sort of have with your starts. All right, let's have a look at the unique techs for the Akdarians. So that you can see there the Akdarians have sort of got this tech in through there, which then extends across to this one. So ultra efficient engines is one of their techs that they do get. And this one gives you the turbo thruster engine. And this is a very, very good engine. If we compare it, for example, the things with this one, we'll just have a look at the standard one, which is on the right-hand side. So 23,000 is the maximum thrust. I'll just keep it on. Actually, probably the cruise thrust is probably the better one to look at, just as a bit of a guide when you're looking at these sorts of things. So 16,500, which is sort of what we're looking at through there. If we look to a standard engine, which is down through there, we're looking at 14,000. So the overall speed is actually much, much better. And I think the energy usage as well. This is 2 per second. This one here is 1.2. So nearly half the energy usage, and also a fairly significant speed boost with that particular engine. So it's good. There are actually acceleros engines like the high volume thrust, which has got almost the same speed as the Ackdarian engine, but not quite. And this is the fastest of the engine in the same tier. You'll find a lot of ships will have the acceleros, but if you can get hold of these turbo thrusters, it does give you a big advantage. So that's actually something that you do want to get as the Akdarians. We'll scroll on down. This is where they really come into their own in here. This is their ships are geared for small craft fighting. So what you want to be doing through here is you've got essentially you start off, or you'll be wanting to get the small fighter starbay first of all, and everyone gets this one. But then from there, you can then go across to fast interceptors. And so what this one does is this one gives you a skip fighter, which is a very, very good small craft, and also the large starfighter bay. Now, when I'm playing this game, what I like to do is get this one here, which unlocks the small starfighter bay. I then actually, instead of going straight to these, which are then unlocked, I then tend to go down to the light bombers, which will give me the medium starfighter bay. And I want that before I get the large starfighter bay, because a lot of the early ships can't take the large mount for the actual large bay. And so in this case, this one's size 50, as you can sort of see there on the left hand side. And so I tend to grab that one, and then from there we can then go and get the fast bombers, which then give me the large starfighter bay. So I can sort of go from there to there to there, and sort of then pick up what I need along the way, and that will give me the wave bomber. And so I've got like a better bomber initially, and it's size 100. I can't use that until later on in the game, but it does sort of then enhance different things in through that side through there. So that's the order that I do it, rather than going from there to there, which is tempting. But you go from there down to light bombers, get the medium, because that's going to then give you a lot more bang for buck on your ships in terms of, you can see there the fighter capacity there is 8. The fighter capacity on the small one is only 4. So you double your capacity on small ships with that one there, which makes a massive difference. And then you're sort of across into the fast bombers after that, where you've got like a fighter capacity of 16 for the ships that can cope with that. Now, a lot of the early ships can't do that one. So as we come back down, the other thing that feels like it's a benefit to the Ackdarians is that they do actually have, like compared to the other factions, that they do actually have aspects. For example, in the destroyers, they've got 2 large, it's not actually large, it's only a medium hangar. God, I wish that this was divided into small, medium and large. This is a sort of thing where it does matter. So the destroyers for the Akdarians can actually have 2 medium hangars, which means that they can actually they can be carrying 16 fighter craft. Compare that to the humans, where even if they followed the same strategy, the most that a human destroyer could actually take would be 8. So there's double the humans. And I don't think that the Boscarans, for example, can even get to hangars at this point in time in the game. Let's have a look at some of the other like actual ship designs and sort of go through how they actually work for the Ackdarians. So the Ackdarians, as I say, are my favourite faction, and because of this aspect, pretty much of being able to put the double medium starfighter bays onto the destroyers is actually quite cool. But we'll start with the escorts. So I'm just going into the ship designer, and we've got like the escort here, which is you can only have up to size 375. and every faction has the same limitation, by the way, the 375, and then the patrol and heavy can go up to 415. The escort through here has got like considered to be one large weapon mount and one standard weapon mount. No hangers, 2 defences, so fairly sort of basic. We'll just have a quick and manually create this one through this side. And so these are actually better, if you can compare them, for example, to our vanilla version, which is the humans. These have actually got an area at the back there. They've got a bigger area at the front that they can put like a large weapon at the front of the ship, and they've actually got a 360-degree weapon, a small area at the top there for their point defense. And this is really, really good, because it means that they can still fire their point defense from behind. The human ships, the equivalent human ships, couldn't do that, and so this is already a much, much better designed ship than what the humans have. So it's useful, and that's just the basic escort. Let's just cancel out and have a look at the patrol escort next. So we'll just go add new patrol escort, and so this one here again, one large, one small, 2 defences, so very similar with what we actually have, but it can put a lot of engines on board, up to 5 engines if you wanted it. I don't think you'd actually get that many on there, but anyway, just manually design. And so again, same sort of deal. We've got the large, we've got the small in the same position, but heaps and heaps of engines that can be placed in this thing. This can be really fast. It only has the 2 defense slots, so for shields or armor, so you can sort of deck those out through there. Definitely, if you're going with, always make sure you've got at least 1 shield on a ship. Otherwise, the pirates will be taking your ships over all the time. The pirates need to get rid of your shielding before they can do any before they can start to land assault pods onto your craft. So you don't want to allow them to do that one through there. So anyway, that's the patrol frigate, which is actually going to be even faster again. Again, a good loadout of the actual weapons in through here. This is why I like this faction so much. All of their ships are really, really nice to play with. So anyway, they'll just cancel out of that one through there. We'll have a look at the heavy escort, because you will actually have access to these relatively early. So we'll just go and add new, the heavy escort. You can see there, this has got 1 extra weapon mount. It has 1 less engine, but it's still a lot of engines compared to some of the other factions. So we'll just go and manually design this one through here as well. And so we can see there, we've got the big 225. So it's not just a 180. It actually can fire backwards slightly, including a medium slot at the top there. So we've actually got like the small at the back for the point defense. Again, 360-degree field of fire is very, very good. Like it doesn't sound like it's much when you look at for example, the human ships where they have what is it, a 270? They don't fire behind. They sort of leave a gap behind. But it really does make a massive difference being able to have firing from behind. It means when you're trying to escape, you can still be shooting down any missiles that are coming your way or anything other sort of weaponry that's actually been fired at you. And so we've got like the large mount at the front there, and then we have the medium on top of that as well. So we can actually really deck this one out if you wanted this to be a sort of like a very heavy hitting type ship. This is often it's a bit of a challenge trying to sort of get these sorts of ships to actually work in better with the with what can fit in them within the limited amount of space. And so just be aware of that. Quite often it can be hard to sort of juggle that to find the best sort of weapon combination. Anyway, it's a brilliant little design. I love this the approach with these escorts, and these, because of what they've got, are useful all game long. So these can fill a role for you, and you can keep on redesigning them to suit whatever role you want them to play. They're fast, they've got protection, they don't have a real lot of armor or shielding, only 2, but they are actually very, very useful. So again, these escorts, unlike the human escorts, are probably going to be around for in your fleets all the way through, I would think. So we'll just go and cancel. Let's have a look at the frigate. Just go to add new frigate. And again, we do actually now have a hangar. Now, the human ships didn't get their hangar until the destroyer, so you can, if you wanted to, make mini carriers out of this one. I always find 1 hangar is not really enough. These have got 2 and 2 in terms of their weapons. Manually design this one through here, and so these have got 2 large slots at the front of the ship. So we've got two large at the front and 2 small. Again, another 360 at the top and a 270 at the front there. Now, I tend to use the escorts for close-in work, like using them with railguns or with beams or something like that, where they can fire in close. And I tend to have these decked out with missiles, but for no real good reason other than I'm just trying to mix things up a little bit. These can work just as well. They've only got they're a bit weak in the sense that they've only got like 2 defense slots, so they're not these aren't really all that strong, but they do pack a bit of a punch there with what they can do. So these again are good ships. The escorts, though, for me, actually, I find the escorts probably better than these to a degree. So I do like to have a lot of escorts when I'm playing as the Akdarians. The frigates are, again, a very, very good design, but I think that just... Yeah, actually, no, these are a good design as well. Like you can squeeze more on them. So the combination of these, again, you're going to be using these all game long as well. So that's your frigates. Let's have a look at the destroyers. Just go straight to destroyer. Again, you've got other ones that you can sort of then go and research afterwards, but you tend to just pick on these. The maximum size here goes up a lot when you do these. The big thing here, though, is the 2 hangar slots that you actually end up having. So if I just go and manually create the new design of this ship, you'll sort of see it's not that dissimilar to the loadout of the frigate, but you do actually have you've got a hangar back there, and a hangar at the front there as well. So you've got 2 hangars, which means that if you go for that, what I told you before about going for the medium, try to go for the bombers first to get the medium hangar, and then put the medium hangar on 2 medium hangars on this one. You won't have much space left over for anything else. Like, you won't be able to really deck out this one fully, but the whole idea there is if you bring a few of these in the initial part of the game, you're going to be able to take over. You're going to be able to do a lot of damage just with these as mini carriers. Again, you've actually got good protection there, so make use of that as well. If you've got any 360, I think your 360 weapon mount now goes. You've got a 180 at the back, which is only small. You've got a 270 at the front there as well. So that's probably your 2-point defense slots in through there when you actually are designing the ship. But these are really, really cool ships. Okay, let's go across. We'll cancel out of that one through there. And they're cool because of that double mount, double hangar. You've got like the fact that you can actually get a medium-sized hangar and put 2 of them on that ship gives you they can carry 16, and that's more than what a lot of starports will actually have that you come up against on just one ship. Bring a few of them into a fight, and you've actually got a fairly cohesive and powerful battle group of bringing like little mini carriers in. Again, it's quite unique. One thing I love about that is it's a very different feel playing the Ackdarians than any other faction, and it happens with a few of the factions. The Boscarans are the same. They've got a very, very different feel about how they play because of the ship designs. Okay, let's go across. The next one up that we actually have is the cruiser, the light cruiser. So let's just go to this one. I don't think I've got any of the carriers in here. I might show the carrier in the tech just so you can get a bit of a feel for the difference. This one also only has 2 hangar slots. So the destroyer does almost as much as what this one actually does do, but this one's got, of course, much more capacity. So let's just go and manually have a look at this one through here. More weapons on it. So yes, you can make use of these as mini carriers if you wanted to. Again, they've got good protection. The two medium slots in through there for the hangars, it's sort of all there. The 2 hangars are off on this side through here, so these can be other carriers if you need them to be. I tend to, sometimes I do deck them out that way, and sometimes I don't. I just make use of all of the actual weaponry that it has. If I've got destroyers, the destroyers are going to be bringing in just as many fighters as what these guys would, so you might as well use these for the actual hitting power that they can bring in as well. So it's up to you. It depends on who you're fighting. If you're up against the Boscarans, the more fighter craft you have, the better, because their ships, nearly everything faces forward, which means that they can't really protect well against fighter craft. So Boscarans, you definitely want to be decking them out as carriers. Nearly everybody else, you probably want to actually have them as very, very powerful sort of mid-level warships. All right, now the one thing we can't actually sort of show through here is the... and you can actually, one thing with all of that, you do actually have good fields of fire with all of the Ackdarian ships, not as opposed to what we saw there with the human ships. Let's just go and cancel this one and just go back into our tech. because I didn't actually do enough tech to show what would happen if you were choosing the actual aircraft carriers, or not the aircraft carriers, but the fighter carriers. And so we've got to multi-role starships. One thing that you want to be doing when you are playing as the Akdarians is trying to get along this tree, get to the destroyers quickly, get the come back down for the light bombers, followed by the fast bombers. So you want to go that way to pick up particularly the medium starfighter bay, but then you want to get these wave bombers. You may want to come back at some point later on and pick up the fast interceptors to get the skip fighter as well. That way you're getting the best of the small craft as well as the actual the best of these other sorts of mounts, and of course the fast bombers with the large starfighter bay. That is an Ackdarian only edition that you can get. The others can get them if they go back through here. They can then start to sort of pick up the large starfighter bay there. Actually, I don't know if they can get them there. Actually, they can pick it up there as well. So fighter capacity 16. We've got fighter capacity 16 there. But anyway, this for us just gives us more bang for buck with what we can then go and do. So we do actually, this is definitely worth going for. And when you combine that one there, initially, just try to then have it sort of coinciding with your destroyers that you're then picking up to get those 2 hangar slots, and from that point you then come across into your light cruisers. Now from here you've got like a few different things. You can sort of go down into capital ships, which is sort of like your battle cruisers, your improved cruisers back in through that side, which then leads to advanced cruisers. But what you want to be doing once you get to this one is going up here to dedicated carriers. That's the next step for you as the Akdarians. And you can see there, this has got 5 large hangar bays. This brings a mountain of small craft in each one of these ships. And so these give them the protection of a lot of the escorts, the frigates. You probably don't need those destroyers, those mini carrier destroyers to go in with these guys, but just bring other ships in to help protect the small craft will do what they do, but your other ships need to then protect the carrier from attack from other ships. So anyway, that's where you want to go. You want to go along these multi-role, and then the next step is to go up into here to pick up these carriers if you're playing as the Ackdarians. All right, I hope that helps. That's sort of some tips on how to actually play as the Ackdarians, things to look for. Very, very unique faction. As I say, my favourite faction in the game. Absolutely love playing them. Anyway, I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.